The last person I expected to see at my mother's funeral was my stepsister Susan. Yet there she stood, dabbing her mascara-stained cheeks with a monogrammed handkerchief. I hadn't seen her in 5 years, not since she married that pompous hedge fund manager and disappeared into Manhattan's elite social circle. My name is Blair, and until yesterday, I thought I knew exactly how my life would unfold. I'd take over my mother's company, preserve her legacy, and continue building what she'd spent 30 years creating. But life has a way of shattering your certainties, doesn't it? Ms. Matthews? Tobias, our family lawyer, touched my elbow gently. We need to begin the reading. I nodded, my black dress feeling suddenly too tight as I followed him into my mother's study. The familiar scent of her perfume still lingered in the air, making my throat tighten. Before we start, Tobias said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, your mother wanted me to play this. He placed a laptop on the desk and clicked play. My mother's face filled the screen, and I had to grip the armrest to steady myself. She looked tired, but her eyes held that familiar determination I'd always admired. Blair, Susan, if you're watching this, I'm gone. She paused, smoothing her silk blouse, a nervous habit I'd inherited. I know you both think you know what's coming, but you don't. The company isn't going solely to Blair. My heart stopped. Susan's head snapped up. The company will be co-managed by both of you, or it will be sold, with proceeds going to charity. What? I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. This has to be a joke. It's not, Tobias said quietly, sliding 2 identical folders across the desk. You have 48 hours to decide. Susan finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know anything about running a company. Exactly. I spun toward her. You've never shown any interest in the business. Why would Mom do this? Blair, my mother's voice continued, making me turn back to the screen. I know you're angry, but there's more at stake here than you understand. Susan needs this as much as you do, even if neither of you sees it yet. The video ended, leaving us in suffocating silence. This is insane, I muttered, pacing the room. I've worked at the company since college. I know every client, every account, I'll do it, Susan interrupted, her voice stronger now. Something in her tone made me stop pacing. I want to learn. I studied her face, really looked at her for the first time since she arrived. Behind the perfect makeup and designer clothes, something seemed off. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her purse. You have until tomorrow evening to give me your decision, Tobias said, standing. Both of you need to agree, or the sale proceedings begin immediately. As he left, I sank back into my chair, my mind racing. The company was everything to me, everything to Mom. I couldn't let it be sold off to the highest bidder. Blair? Susan's voice was small. Can we talk? I looked at my stepsister, the golden child who'd waltzed into our lives when I was 12, who'd never had to work for anything. But something in her eyes, fear, desperation, made me pause. Fine, I said. Talk. You're holding the pen wrong, I said, watching Susan struggle with the financial report. 2 weeks into our forced partnership, and every day felt like teaching a toddler quantum physics. Sorry, she mumbled, adjusting her grip. Turner usually handles all our finances. I bit back a sharp reply. We sat in my mother's old office, my office until recently, surrounded by stacks of quarterly reports. The morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, highlighting the dark circles under Susan's eyes that even her expensive concealer couldn't hide. Let's try something else, I suggested, pulling up a chair. Tell me what you see in these numbers. Before Susan could answer, her phone buzzed. She flinched, actually flinched, before checking it. Her face went pale. Everything okay? I asked, surprising myself with the concern in my voice. Fine. She stood abruptly. I need to make a call. I couldn't help but overhear her conversation from the hallway. The walls in this building were embarrassingly thin, something Mom had always complained about. I can't come home now, Turner. No, I'm learning. Please, I need to do this. I'm sorry. Her voice cracked on the last word. I found myself walking to the door, then stopping. This wasn't my problem. She wasn't really my sister. Myron, our head of operations, poked her head in. Blair, the Thompson account needs your signature. Not now, I said, still listening to Susan's increasingly distressed voice. You know we can't delay this, Myron insisted. The board is watching every move you make. They're betting this little sister act fails within the month. I turned to face her. They what? Oh, honey. Myron's face softened. Did you think they'd just accept this arrangement? Half the board's convinced Susan's husband put her up to this for a hostile takeover. My blood ran cold. Turner. Of course. How had I not seen it? Susan returned, her makeup freshly touched up, but her hands shaking as she reached for the financial report. Everything okay at home? I asked carefully. Perfect. Her smile was too bright, too practiced. Turner's just protective. He worries. About what? Everything. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. He says I'm too trusting, too naive. He's probably right. I watched her pretend to read the report, and suddenly Mom's words echoed in my head. There's more at stake here than you understand. Let's get lunch, I said impulsively. These reports can wait. Susan's head snapped up. Really? Really, but first, I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. Care to explain why your husband's company just bought 10% of our shares? The color drained from her face. What? No, that's impossible. He promised. Promised what? She stood up so quickly her chair rolled into the wall. I need to go. Susan, wait. But she was already gone, leaving her designer purse behind. As I picked it up, a bottle of prescription anxiety medication fell out. The label was dated 3 days ago. I sank into my chair, staring at the bottle. Mom's voice played in my head again. Susan needs this as much as you do. My phone buzzed. Myron texting about the Thompson account. But I couldn't focus on that now. Something was very wrong with my stepsister's perfect life, and suddenly preserving Mom's company wasn't the only thing I needed to worry about. I found the letter while clearing out Mom's desk. It was tucked inside an old leather portfolio marked, "For my daughters, open only in dire moments." My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Blair, if you're reading this, you've probably discovered what Turner really is. The office door opened. I quickly shoved the letter into my jacket as Susan walked in. Sorry about yesterday, she said, hovering near the door. Turner wasn't feeling well, and I needed to... Cut the crap, I interrupted, pulling up the stock reports on my computer. Your husband has been systematically buying shares through shell companies. Want to explain that? Susan's carefully composed facade cracked. She closed the door and slumped against it. I didn't know. I swear, Blair. He told me he was just investing in my future. By taking over our company? Our company. She repeated softly. That's the first time you've called it that. I ignored the pang of guilt. Why did Mom really leave you half the company? I don't... A sharp knock interrupted us. Turner strode in without waiting for a response, his expensive suit and perfectly coiffed hair failing to hide the coldness in his eyes. Ladies, he said smoothly, having a sister bonding moment? Susan straightened immediately like a puppet on strings. Turner, I thought you were in meetings all day. Changed my plans when I heard about this charming little investigation into my business dealings. He turned to me. Blair, always the protective one, aren't you? Just like your mother. The way he said mother made my skin crawl. Why are you really here, Turner? I asked. Can a man support his wife's new venture? His smile didn't reach his eyes. Susan, darling, get your things. We're late for lunch with the Petersons. I have reports to finish, Susan said quietly. The reports can wait. His tone was gentle, but Susan flinched. I stepped between them. She's staying. We have a board meeting to prepare for. Turner's facade slipped for just a moment, but it was enough. I saw the rage beneath the polished surface. Susan? His voice was steel wrapped in silk. Now. She grabbed her purse, avoiding my eyes. As they left, I pulled out Mom's letter again. Blair, Turner isn't just after the company. He's destroying Susan, just like he tried to destroy me. Remember that night I ended up in the hospital? It wasn't an accident. He threatened to ruin everything if I told anyone. I thought I could protect you both by keeping quiet, but I was wrong. Susan needs you now more than ever. The proof you need is in the blue storage unit on 5th Street, Unit 23. The code is your birthday. Be careful, sweetheart. He's more dangerous than you know. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stay out of my business dealings, Blair. Some stones are better left unturned. I deleted the message, my hands shaking. Then I called Eli, my old friend from IT. Hey, I said when he answered. Remember when you said you owed me a favor? I need your help accessing some financial records, and I need you to be discreet. How discreet are we talking? I looked at Mom's letter again. Life or death, discreet. I'm in, he said without hesitation. But Blair, whatever you're getting into, be careful. Too late for that, I muttered, grabbing my keys. I had a storage unit to visit. The storage unit's fluorescent lights flickered as I pulled out another dusty box. 3 hours of searching had yielded nothing but old tax records and family photos. My phone buzzed. Eli. Tell me you found something, I answered. Oh, I found something all right. His voice was tight. Turner's been running a massive money laundering operation through offshore accounts. But Blair, there's more. Your mom was investigating him before she died. The box in my hands slipped, scattering papers across the concrete floor. What? She hired a private investigator. The reports are... A noise outside made me freeze. Someone's here. Call you back. I crouched behind a stack of boxes just as footsteps approached. The unit's door rolled up. Blair? Susan's whisper echoed in the small space. I know you're in here. I followed you. I stood slowly. How did you get away from Turner? She gave a bitter laugh. Told him I had a migraine. He sends me to bed like a child when that happens. Makes it easier to control my whereabouts. In the harsh lighting, I could see a fading bruise near her hairline, partially covered by makeup. Did he do that to you? She touched the spot self-consciously. I fell. Like Mom fell that night she ended up in the hospital? Susan's eyes widened. You know about that? I'm learning more every minute. I picked up my phone. Eli found evidence. Turner's been laundering money through the company. Mom knew. That's why she died so suddenly, isn't it? Susan's voice cracked. The doctors said it was a heart attack, but we can't prove anything yet. I hesitated, then pulled out a thick manila envelope I'd found earlier. But look at this. Inside were photos. Turner with known criminals, documents showing massive wire transfers, and a handwritten note from Mom detailing her suspicions. Susan's hands shook as she read. He'll kill us if he finds out we know. Not if we move first. I grabbed her arm. We need to get these somewhere safe. My apartment. No. She pulled back. He has people watching your building, has for months. I stared at her. What? I'm sorry. I should have warned you, but he... She wrapped her arms around herself. He knows everything. Controls everything. There's no way out. There's always a way out. I pulled out my phone. Eli can help us build a case. And Tobias... The lawyer? No. Real fear flashed across her face. Turner has dirt on him, too. He has dirt on everyone. Not on me. Because he hasn't needed it yet. She grabbed my hands. Blair, please, you don't know what he's capable of. But Mom did. I squeezed her hands back. And she gave us everything we need to take him down. We just need to be smart about it. Susan's phone buzzed. Her face went pale. He's awake. I have to go. Wait. I pulled out a burner phone. Take this. I'll text you a secure number. We do this together or not at all. She hesitated, then grabbed the phone. Be careful, please. After she left, I called Eli back. How fast can you set up untraceable accounts? Give me 24 hours, but Blair, what exactly are we doing here? I looked at the evidence in my hands. We're taking down a monster and saving my sister. The board meeting is in 3 days, I explained, spreading documents across Eli's kitchen table. That's our window. Susan nodded, her fingers drumming nervously on her coffee cup. We'd chosen Eli's apartment for its security. No doorman to report to Turner, no cameras in the hallways. Turner's getting suspicious, she said. He installed tracking software on my phone yesterday. That's why we're using burners. Eli didn't look up from his laptop. But we've got bigger problems. Someone's been trying to access your mother's private server. Can they get in? I asked. Not yet. But they're good. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. Really good. A knock at the door made us all freeze. Susan's coffee cup clattered against the saucer. It's me, Marin's voice called out. Let me in before someone sees me standing here. I opened the door. Marin strode in, her usual confident demeanor replaced with obvious concern. Turner called an emergency executive meeting for tomorrow morning, she said without preamble. He's making a play for CEO. He can't, I protested. The will specifically states, the will doesn't matter if he can prove you're both incompetent. Marin dropped a thick folder on the table. He's been building a case. Claims you're emotionally unstable, Blair, and that Susan's been embezzling funds. Susan went pale. But I haven't. Of course you haven't, I cut in. He's framing you. Probably been planning this since before Mom died. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Storage Unit 23 was interesting. Wonder what else your mother kept hidden. He knows, I whispered. How does he know? Susan started to shake. We have to stop. He'll destroy everything. No. I grabbed her shoulders. That's what he wants, to scare us into submission. But we have something he doesn't. What's that? Mom's final ace. I pulled out a USB drive. Eli, show them. He plugged it in, pulling up financial records. Your mother had a backup plan. She created a hidden trust, completely separate from the company. The money trail leads straight to Turner's illegal operations. But that's not all, I added. Mom recorded every conversation she had with Turner in the months before she died, including the night he threatened her. Marin whistled low. That's why she always insisted on meeting him in her office. The recording system. Exactly. I turned to Susan. We present this at tomorrow's meeting before he can make his move. But I need you there. Need you strong. He'll kill me, she whispered. No. I gripped her hand. He'll try. But this time you're not alone. A crash downstairs made us all jump. Susan's phone buzzed. He's here, she said, voice shaking. Downstairs. How did he? Fire escape, Eli said, already shutting down his laptop. Now, we scrambled to gather the evidence. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. Blair, Susan grabbed my arm. If anything happens to me, nothing's happening to either of us. I shoved the USB drive into my pocket. Mom died protecting us. I won't let her death be for nothing. As we slipped out onto the fire escape, I heard Turner's voice in the hallway. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was angry. And tomorrow, he'd learn exactly what happened when you underestimated the daughters of Evelyn Boyd. The USB drive is gone. I tore through my purse, panic rising. It must have fallen out on the fire escape. We were huddled in Marin's downtown condo, dawn breaking over the city. Susan sat rigid on the couch, makeup free for the first time since I'd known her, revealing dark circles and a yellowing bruise along her jaw. We can't go back, Eli said, pacing. Turner's men are watching the building. My phone rang. Tobias. Blair, where are you? Turner's called an emergency board meeting for 9 a.m. He's claiming you and Susan have been conspiring to defraud the company. I checked the time. 7:30 a.m. We'll be there, I said firmly. Are you crazy? Susan stood up. Without the evidence, we still have the photos from the storage unit, I reminded her, and Mom's letter. Not enough. Myron shook her head. The board needs hard proof of the money laundering. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. Looking for something? Come alone to the coffee shop across from the office. 8 a.m. Tell anyone and the drive gets destroyed. It's him, isn't it? Susan's voice quivered. Blair, don't go, please. I grabbed my coat. We don't have a choice. Then I'm coming with you. No. I turned to her. You need to go to the office, act normal, keep Turner distracted. I can't face him alone, she whispered. I gripped her shoulders. Yes, you can. You're not the scared little girl he married anymore. You're Evelyn Boyd's daughter. Tears filled her eyes. Only by marriage. No. I pulled her into a hug. By choice. Mom chose you. And so do I. The coffee shop was nearly empty when I arrived. A man in a dark suit sat in the corner, a familiar USB drive on the table. Mrs. Hill sends her regards, he said as I sat down. My blood ran cold. What? He smiled. Surprising, isn't it? How easily sisters turn on each other. You're lying. Am I? He slid over his phone, showing a text conversation with Susan from last night. I'll get her to the apartment. Make it look like a break-in. No, I whispered. She wouldn't. My phone buzzed. Eli. Susan just let Turner into the office. She's telling him everything. The man stood. Better hurry. The board meeting starts in 30 minutes. I ran all 15 blocks to the office, my mind racing. Had I been wrong about everything? About Susan? About Mom? The elevator seemed to crawl. When it finally opened on our floor, I heard Susan's voice from the boardroom. And that's why I can't do this anymore. I burst through the doors. Turner stood at the head of the table, smirking. The board members watched in silence. Susan stood trembling at the window. I trusted you, I said. Susan turned, tears streaming down her face. But instead of guilt, I saw something else in her eyes. Determination. I know, she said. Then she pulled out her phone and pressed play. Turner's voice filled the room. Kill her like we killed her mother. Make it look like an accident. The smirk fell from Turner's face. Susan held up a small recording device. Sorry I'm late to the real meeting, sis, she said. Had to make sure he confessed first. You stupid bitch, Turner snarled, lunging toward Susan. I stepped between them as 2 police officers burst through the boardroom doors. Turner Hill, one announced. You're under arrest for the murder of Evelyn Boyd and conspiracy to commit fraud. You have nothing, Turner sneered, but his face had gone pale. Susan's hands shook as she placed a laptop on the conference table. Actually, we have everything. Eli appeared in the doorway, giving us a thumbs up. On the screen, dozens of financial records appeared, along with surveillance footage of Turner meeting with known criminals. The USB drive was a decoy. I explained to the stunned board members. The real evidence was already uploaded to secure servers. You recorded me, Turner said to Susan, realization dawning. In our own home. Just like you recorded Mom. Susan's voice grew stronger. Did you really think I was that naive? That I wouldn't figure it out after she died? Mrs. Hill has been working with us for months, the second officer said, producing handcuffs. The wire she wore today was just the final piece we needed. Turner lunged again, this time managing to grab Susan's throat. You're nothing without me. I slammed my briefcase into his head as the officers tackled him. Susan stumbled back, gasping. You okay? I asked, helping her up. She nodded, rubbing her neck. Better than okay. As the officers led Turner away, he turned back. This isn't over. I still own 20% of the company. Actually, Marin stepped forward. Those shares were transferred this morning to a trust established by Evelyn Boyd. Impossible. Mom knew what you were, I said. She planned for everything, even her death. She left us a letter, Susan added. Told us where to find the evidence, how to trap you. We just had to work together. Turner struggled against the handcuffs. The board will never accept this. The board? A senior member stood up. Has heard enough. Ms. Matthews, Ms. Hill, we'd like to formally apologize for any doubt we cast on your leadership. As Turner was led away screaming threats, Susan collapsed into a chair. I was so scared, she whispered. When he found the fake USB, I thought, you were brilliant. I squeezed her shoulder. Mom would be proud. Ladies, Tobias cleared his throat. There's one more thing. He pulled out an envelope. Your mother left this with me, to be opened only after Turner was arrested. Inside was a single photograph. Mom, Susan, and me at Susan's high school graduation. On the back was written, my greatest achievement wasn't building a company. It was bringing my daughters together. Take care of each other. She knew, Susan said softly. She knew we'd figure it out. Of course she did. I helped her up. She was the smartest person we knew. The board members filed out, leaving us alone in the room where everything had started. So, Susan straightened her blazer. Ready to run a company together? I looked at my sister. Really my sister now, not just by marriage. And smiled. Ready to change the world? She linked her arm through mine. Mom would expect nothing less. As we walked out, I glanced back at Mom's photograph on the wall. For the first time since her death, her smile didn't bring pain. It brought purpose. You're doing it wrong again, I said, watching Susan struggle with her chopsticks. We sat in Mom's old office, our office now, surrounded by takeout containers and quarterly reports. Some of us didn't grow up with a Japanese stepmom, she retorted, finally spearing a piece of sushi with one stick. That's sacrilege. I grabbed a proper set of chopsticks from my desk. Here, let me show you. The setting sun painted the Manhattan skyline orange, glinting off the new company sign. Boyd and Associates, women-owned, family-run. My phone buzzed. Eli's daily security update. Turner's appeal had been denied. He'd be in prison for at least 20 years. Stop checking that, Susan said softly. He can't hurt us anymore. Old habits. I put the phone away. How was your therapy session today? Good. She smiled. A real smile, not the plastic one she'd worn during her marriage. Dr. Patterson says I'm making progress. I actually slept through the night last week. That's wonderful. Speaking of wonderful, she pulled out an envelope. The domestic violence shelter approved our grant proposal. Full funding for the next 5 years. I grabbed the letter, scanning it quickly. Mom would love this. Using company profits to help other women escape abuse. It's perfect. Susan straightened some files on her desk. Her own nervous habit, so different from Mom's silk blouse smoothing. Blair, thank you for believing in me, for not giving up. Even when I thought you'd betrayed me? She threw a sushi roll at my head. I ducked, laughing. Ms. Matthews? Ms. Hill? Marin poked her head in. The new interns are here for orientation. Send them in, we said simultaneously. 20 young women filed into the office, eyes wide with anticipation. Welcome to Boyd & Associates. Susan began, standing. I'm Susan. This is my sister Blair. We believe in 3 things here. Integrity, innovation, and second chances. And family, I added. Blood or chosen, family is everything. Your resumes are impressive, Susan continued, but we hired you for something more important than your degrees. We hired you because each of you showed courage in your interviews. The courage to stand up, speak out, and help others. Like our mother did, I said. She built this company to empower women. Now we're expanding that vision. The internship program is just the beginning. Any questions? Susan asked. A young woman raised her hand. Is it true what they say? That you two took down a criminal empire? Susan and I exchanged glances. We had help, I said. From our mother, even after she was gone. From friends who believed in us. From each other. The real question, Susan added, is what will you do with your opportunity here? How will you help other women find their strength? As the interns discussed their ideas, I watched my sister, my real sister now, in all the ways that mattered. She caught my eye and smiled. On the wall, Mom's portrait seemed to smile too, watching her daughters continue her legacy in ways she'd never imagined. Not just preserving what she'd built, but transforming it into something greater, something worthy of the strength she'd seen in both of us, long before we saw it in ourselves.